Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening up a centuries-old mental toolkit, the Socratic dialectic. But we're looking at it with a purely modern professional focus. This isn't some dusty academic exercise.
Not at all. It's really the ultimate intellectual shortcut, We've looked at the sources, and it's clear. Using this method just forces you to slow down,
Right.
to interrogate your own first thoughts, and question what you think you know. It's how top performers cut through all the noise.
And that's our mission today. We want to unpack exactly how this kind of structured, disciplined questioning can, well, completely transform your daily work.
It's a framework, really.
Yes, a framework for decision-making, for conflict resolution, and for leadership that actually makes an impact. We're going to show you how asking the right question is the key to avoiding those, costly, impulsive decisions.
The core of it for professionals is precision. It's about moving beyond just opinion and getting to validated insight. It forces you to uncover your own unconscious assumptions.
Which we all have.
All of us. And it helps you clarify concepts and just improve your reasoning. You basically shift your work from just a series of assumptions to a process of inquiry.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Where does this give you immediate leverage? I'm thinking the two most fundamental issues in any workplace: clarity and evidence.
Which almost always suffer from ambiguity, especially when you're trying to define what success even is.
Exactly. I mean, think about that classic scenario. A manager comes to the team and says, "We need a better campaign."
Ah, the better trap.
The better trap. If you don't use Socratic questioning right then and there, you're pretty much guaranteed to fail.
Yeah.
Because you're just guessing what better means.
And you start pouring resources into a campaign based on your interpretation of that word, which might be completely wrong.
So this is where the questioning becomes like preventative medicine.
Yes. You have to lock down a shared definition. You have to ask, what specifically defines better here? Are we talking about lower cost, higher revenue, or something else entirely?
And you have to get specific with the metrics. It can't just be a feeling. You need to ask which metrics matter most. Is it CPC, cost per click?
Or is it ROAS, return on ad spend? Maybe it's customer acquisition cost.
Right. You are forcing them to commit to something measurable.
And that commitment prevents that awful meeting 6 weeks later where they say, this isn't what I wanted. It ensures you're both measuring success the same way.
Okay, so let's apply that same discipline to the next step: diagnosing problems. Because knee-jerk reactions they're everywhere when things go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Most teams are solution-driven, not diagnosis-driven. A metric drops, say, email open rates are down, and someone in the meeting immediately says,
We need to use subject lines.
exactly, we have to fight that impulse to just jump to a solution.
Instead, you stop that emotional reaction and you ground the whole discussion in evidence. You start asking, why do we think performance dropped?
What actual evidence supports that theory? Is it happening to everyone or just one segment?
And what if it's not what we think at all? Are there, say, 3 alternative causes we haven't even thought about yet? Maybe it's a tech issue.
It could be anything. That line of questioning leads to a much deeper, more accurate diagnosis. You stop just treating the symptom and you start finding the root cause.
Okay, so let's shift gears from evidence and clarity to the messy part. People, team dynamics, influence, all of that.
This is where it gets really powerful, I think, especially with conflict.
When you have 2 people who disagree on a project, the default is usually an argument, right? It's about who's right.
And it becomes about ego. The Socratic leader steps back from that. They don't arbitrate. They start an investigation.
But I want to pause there because I can see how that could backfire. If you have a junior employee who's already stressed, intense questioning might feel like a personal attack.
That's a great point, and the nuance here is absolutely critical. The questions can't be, why is your idea bad? It has to be about, let's look at the beliefs we're building on. The focus is mutual understanding. You ask, what's the core assumption you're working with?
I like that.
And then, is there any scenario where the other person's view could be valid?
And the big one, what's the shared goal we're both trying to achieve here?
Exactly. That question dissolves the ego. It's not about my method versus your method anymore. It's about us versus the problem.
And that leads perfectly into the next application, which is better leadership, better delegation.
A Socratic leader knows that just giving the answer solves the problem once.
But asking the right question teaches the person how to solve it forever. It's a force multiplier for the whole team's capability.
So when a team member comes to you and asks, how should I do this? Instead of giving them the template, you engage them.
You turn it back on them.
Yeah. You ask, How would you approach this if I wasn't here? What other options did you consider? Why is this one the best?
You're delegating the thinking, not just the task. And over time, they start to self-guide. It builds real ownership.
And that clarity, it just bleeds into everything, especially general communication. Misunderstandings drop like a rock when you're this disciplined.
Oh, for sure.
Hmm.
We all use those vague words like, I need that report soon.
Soon? What does that even mean? That
Yeah.
one word can cause so much rework.
So a Socratic communicator just doesn't accept that. They push for clarity.
You have to. You ask.
Hmm.
When you say soon, are we talking end of day or end of week? What's the one core message we're trying to send here?
And what's the outcome we're optimizing for? Is this email meant to just inform, or do we need a decision?
Knowing the outcome you want cuts out all the noise. Okay, so let's take that skill and point it outward, towards clients, sales, negotiation.
This is where it gets really interesting, revealing needs they might not even know they have.
Absolutely. So imagine the client just says flat out, your pricing is too high.
The natural reaction is to get defensive. Start listing features, justifying the cost.
But the Socratic professional doesn't defend. They probe. They make the client articulate their own values.
So instead of justifying, you ask something like, what would make this pricing feel worth it to you?
Perfect. Or, of all the things we talked about, what's the one outcome you value the most? What trade-offs are you weighing right now?
And suddenly, the client isn't arguing with you anymore. They're arguing with themselves, trying to figure out what they truly need.
And that allows you to tailor the offer perfectly. It moves from a standoff over price to a collaboration on value.
But none of that external mastery really works without internal mastery. So let's turn inward now. Strategy, self-reflection, growth.
Yeah, we get stuck in our own mental patterns, which limits our strategy. This method is designed specifically to break those patterns.
So when you're at a strategic dead end, you question the very foundation of the problem. You ask, what's the one assumption right now that's limiting us?
And the follow-up, which is so powerful. What if that assumption was just false? What if we had unlimited time or unlimited money? What would the ideal solution look like then?
That pulls you out of the tactical day-to-day and forces you to think bigger. But that kind of thinking is tied to our own biases.
Which brings us to avoiding ego-based decisions. This means you have to apply the Socratic method to yourself.
That's mandatory self-interrogation. You have to. When you're sure your idea is the best one, you have to stop and ask, why do I believe this so strongly?
What evidence is out there that contradicts my position? I mean, actively look for it.
And here's the hardest one, I think. You have to ask, what am I afraid of losing if I'm wrong?
That is the one. Because when you can name that fear, reputation, control, whatever it is, you expose the emotional driver behind your bias. Then you can actually get closer to an objective decision.
That constant self-assessment is really the engine for growth, which is our next point, just learning faster.
It's about turning every single experience, good or bad, into a rapid learning cycle. You can actually boil it down to a simple 4-question mini dialectic.
Like a personal debrief after every project.
Exactly. 4 questions. 1, what happened? 2, why did it happen? 3, what did I assume that wasn't true?
Ooh, that's a big one.
It's huge. And 4, based on that, what can I do differently next time?
It reframes failure. It's not a disaster anymore. It's just a data point. Okay, and finally, maybe the most personal application. Emotional regulation.
We react emotionally all day at work, right? But we rarely process why. So let's say you send a big email to a senior stakeholder and they don't reply.
And you start to spiral. They hate it, I'm not valued, all of that.
That's the emotional reaction. But the Socratic method gives you a tool to step outside of it. You ask yourself, why am I feeling this?
What's the specific belief that triggered this? The belief that they're ignoring me.
And then the critical distinction is my emotion based on a fact, they didn't reply, or my interpretation, they're ignoring me on purpose.
Fact versus interpretation, that is everything.
It's what separates a moment of stress from a total emotional spiral. It brings you back to a calm, rational state.
So I think the big takeaway here is that the Socratic dialectic isn't just academic. It's an active, powerful mental toolkit you can start using right now.
It's the ultimate intellectual leverage. It's about systematically replacing assumption with inquiry, ego with humility, and confusion with clarity.
It really is the hallmark of professional excellence. So here's a provocative thought for you to take with you this week. Think about one major decision you made recently, a project you started, a conflict you managed. Now, apply one of these questions to it. What assumption was limiting me when I made that decision? See if the answer reveals a constraint you didn't even realize you'd put on yourself.
Start by questioning your most comfortable truths and see how much faster you grow.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.